OK, we'll kick off with the latest in the post office scandal. There's the story of the moment, isn't it? All because of the TV drama. The politicians have known about this for years. The big news is that the former post office boss, Paula Vennells, has handed back her CBE after calls from victims, cabinet ministers and more than 1 million members of the public who signed a petition. Vennells was CEO from 2012 to 2019, and during that time she repeatedly defended the faulty Horizon software, which led to more than 700 postmasters being wrongly prosecuted over money that wasn't really missing. Vennells said she was truly sorry for the devastation caused. And the problem with this, Ava, is when you look at the facts, I reckon she knew.
Well, I would hope she would have known.
Yeah, but she knew, but she told us there's nothing wrong with it.
Look, this is what my problem is. So at the moment, we're talking about a lot of politicians and how accountable should they be. As far as we understand it at the moment, until a public inquiry can prove otherwise, they were told directly by the post office that there was nothing wrong, that the Horizon system was working correctly. Who I'm angry at are people like Paula Vennells, the chief executive, who, by the way, took £5 million worth of bonuses during her time working at the post office. She needs to be publicly shamed.
You're talking about Vennells here?
Yeah, Vennells. Who did I say?
Yeah, but no, that's fine. But she's already given up her CBE, right? So
is that enough? I think we need to see proper retribution here. I want to see that money handed back.
Well, you could. It's possible. I mean, there is a bit of a lynching here going on with Vennells, isn't there? Because you find one person. But it's possible, Carol, that she could be open to a class action as a private person. They go for her pension and her house. Would that be fair?
You know, yeah. And what I'm amazed at, this woman is the Church of England deacon, for goodness sake. And, you know, finally yesterday she did the right thing after doing the wrong thing for many, many years. And why did she have to be forced into giving up the CBE? I find that astonishing. You know, the minute this was exposed, she should have given that up willingly.
But she's known, listen, she has known about it for years. We've done, on the radio, on Channel 5, we've done pieces with these postmasters for years.
She has played a lead role in covering up the IT flows on this Horizon.
Let me just show you the front pages before we move on, because I'll come back to you, Carol, in a second. But it's the story at the moment, and it's a story. It's one of those things. And somebody said yesterday, it's a bit like Hillsborough, where you realise little, you might say ordinary people, have no chance when it's the government and Fujitsu and the post office, until there's a moment where we all realise they need us to take their side. Shameful, says the Mirror. At last, says the Metro, this is about her handing back her CBE. And the Mail, now give back your minions. By the way, confusion about the Mail front page. Ed Davey is in the news, the leader of the Liberal Democrats. I don't know if they're doing something clever there. That's not Ed Davey, it's Jason Donovan. But it looks exactly like him. So that slightly blew our minds that he might be on a beach while he's in a scandal.
Is that Jason Donovan, the man you ignored on your cycle when he was trying to talk to you?
Yeah, probably.
Waving him off.
Probably, yeah.
I just think, Vennells has to take a massive responsibility here. She was, not only did she ignore what was happening to the sub-postmasters, and let's not forget people, they lost their lives, some committed suicide, some tried to commit suicide, some went to jail, they lost their homes. This was ordinary people who she trampled all over, and she did it while she was claiming, I think her salary over 6 years was something like 3.7 million. But, and she was taking this cash as everyone in the post office was losing theirs. It's astonishing.
Yeah.
So, yes, I think losing her CBE is the very least that should happen to her. When you get the top job, you have to be accountable. And she was not.
She was also, we now learn she might have become Bishop of London. Can you believe that she was on the conveyor belt for that? We've also learned from the Justice Secretary, Alex Chalk, that there's a bill to quash hundreds of convictions of sub-postmasters and mistresses that's currently under active consideration. There's Mr. Chalk on the right there. We've been told this morning an announcement is imminent. So we'll wait to see what he says. But he's acting because of this TV drama. That's the thing. And I think if you're the postmasters, by which I mean masters and mistresses, you must be feeling, hang on, everyone's been able to see this story since 2015, and it's only now they're getting stuck in. So let's talk to Richard Hawkes, who's one of them, a former sub-postmaster. You were convicted in 2005 after being told you really needed to plead guilty to false accounting. And it took you then, 17 years to be exonerated, Richard?
That's correct, yes. Yes.
I know I've talked to sub-postmasters about the drama, and they say it's really accurate the way you would cash up at the end of the day, and the Horizon system would tell you were, I think in your case, £11,000 adrift.
Yes, that's right. I mean, we had no means of really checking the figures because it was all supplied through the computer.
And when you went to the post, I know did you bring the auditors in yourself? I'd heard, and they just arrested you, basically, did they?
I got to a stage when I'd had enough. I couldn't fund the losses that were coming up. And I called the auditors in. They told me to shut up shop, do not open. The investigators came in and the auditors came in, and that was the end of the story for me. My little shop that went with it couldn't open because it was all one entrance. It was just mind blowing and very stressful.
I'm sure, and then you lose your good name as well.
Indeed, and you cannot help but churn over in your mind as to where the money's gone to. I mean, in my case, over £11,000. Where did that go? I couldn't use it in my little shop because that would have bought the stock many times over. I didn't have it in my personal account. So where did it go? But nobody was interested in finding out, other than the fact that you're responsible, you have to pay it.
Richard, how did you pay that money back? I believe you had to work for free, didn't you?
When I was taken to court, having been through Magistrates' Court and then finally to Crown Court, my solicitors and my barrister could offer no defence at all. I had no evidence at all because that was all taken by the post office. So I had a completely blank sheet and they said there was nothing to work with. So I was advised and did plead guilty to false accounting. That was fine until it came to the judge's summing up, when he specified that by the time sentencing takes place, if I have not repaid the over £11,000, then he would be considering a custodial sentence under the terms of fraud.
Are you, Richard? You're now seeing this thing, at least with Vennells giving back her CBE. But I wanted to ask you, are you satisfied with that? And then what do you think about Ed Davey, the leader of the Liberal Democrats, who just basically sat on his hands?
I think the problem is it goes up all levels of both the post office and into government. I mean, people were too afraid to put their head above the parapet in the post office that the higher management in post office basically knew what was going on but didn't want to admit to it. The government ministers, and Ed Davey being one of them, but there were several others, they never had any control over the situation. They didn't look into it. And it just strikes me as so unfair, the fact that we had transferred from a paper system, which seemed to work extremely well. We as sub-postmasters, if we had a problem, we could just check and double check all our paperwork. But once we switched on to Horizon, we only had our side of it. We couldn't check anything that really had gone through during that week when we were balancing our books. It was so one-sided. We had no control at all.
Okay.
Richard, do you believe Paula Vennells knew what was going on?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Do you believe that Paula Vennells knew what was going on?
It would seem unbelievable that she didn't. I mean, the fact that there were so many shortfalls happening under the new system, that would have triggered alarm bells in the post office and would presumably have been generated higher and higher up the level of management. So, yes, I certainly think she would have known. It was her job to know.